Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Just before Christmas, Scrapbook.com sent me the new black Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine along with a bunch of Scrapbook.com dies, their magic mat, and a few other products from Scrapbook.com. The black color is only available at Scrapbook.com, and if you are interested, I do have links provided in the description box below. Today I have a few cards to share with you using the new products. For my first card, I'm using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from MFT, it's number 496. The pattern paper is from Scrapbook.com's Boho collection. I selected the lovely floral paper for the background. For the diagonal piece on the left side of the card, I'm using a green and white polka dot paper. I'll layer both of those on a light bluish green cardstock, and this is part of the smooth Boho cardstock collection. I did provide measurements for an A2 size card, although that diagonal piece, I found it easier to just simply cut a 4 by 4 inch piece, layered the two pieces together, then adhere it onto the left side of the card. Then I'll flip over that panel, use my scissors to trim off the extra. Next, I'll layer the background piece on some dark green cardstock, put my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5.5 inches. For the short narrow piece that's toward the top of the card, I'm using this lovely yellow color, and this is also part of the Boho Smooth Cardstock collection. I cut the left side at an angle, and I'm tucking it underneath the edge of that triangle piece on the left side of the card. For the narrow banner toward the bottom of the card, I'm using the green cardstock color from the Boho Smooth Cardstock collection. Cut a fishtail on the right side. Before adhering it to the card, I will put a scrap cardstock piece on the right side. That'll help keep it level with that polka dot paper panel. Then I'll adhere it in place using some adhesive. It's nice that Scrapbook.com has coordinating cardstock colors to go with their pattern paper collections. And they are available in 3 sizes. They have the larger size, 6 by 8, there's a slimline size, and also A2 size. Next, I'll add a little leafy sprig on the left side of the card, and these are from Scrapbook.com's Delicate Leaves die set. I cut out 3 of them, 2 from a darker blue cardstock color and the other from the same bluish green cardstock that I layered the 2 background pieces. I'll adhere those in place on the left side of the green banner. I'm using Honeybee Stamp's Precision Tip Glue. I'll add the 2 dark blue leafy sprigs first and then the lighter bluish green. I'm using Scrapbook.com's reverse tweezers to hold those delicate leaves while I add just those small drops of liquid adhesive. I'm also adding a yellow butterfly silhouette die cut, and this is from one of Scrapbook.com's butterfly die sets. I will have all of the products I used in this video linked in the description box below. I know a few of the die sets aren't available yet, but they are coming very soon. For a sentiment, I decided to go with a generic high. I love using general sentiments on my card. I used the bold basic alphabet die set, cut both of the letters out of that same dark blue cardstock, and I did pop them up using Scrapbook.com's thin foam adhesive strips. To finish off the card, I'm adding some pearls. These are from Spellbinders. It's their Fashion Blush color. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love the colors of this collection, so pretty. Now moving on to card design number 2. I'll be using the Floral Borders Slimline die set. I selected the beautiful roses, cut out 3 of the borders using one of the red colors in Scrapbook.com's Roses Smooth Cardstock collection. For the background of the card, I'm using some white Nina cardstock. I'm also adding a diagonal panel of craft cardstock toward the top of the card. Next, I'll add the 3 rose border die cut pieces. Since they are slimline size, I don't need the full length, so I am trimming them down just a little bit. Using my reverse tweezers, I'll hold those borders in place and add some liquid adhesive to the back side. The first border I'll put between the craft cardstock and the white Neenah cardstock. The next border I'll put below, and the last rose border I'll put on top. I'm trying to put them fairly close together but not touching. I'll trim down the final rose border, put a little bit of liquid adhesive on the back. Try not to put too much liquid adhesive since I don't want it oozing out from behind the paper, even though the glue will dry clear. Once those are all in place, I'll flip over this panel, use my scissors to trim off the extra. Then I'll put some adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base. The adhesive I'm using in this video is Scrapbook.com's Deluxe Adhesive Roller. For a sentiment on the card, I decided to add the word hello, and this is from the Hello Bloom die set by Scrapbook.com. I also cut out 3 of the small butterflies from the same set. There is an outline that goes around the word hello, but for this card I'm using just the word, since there is enough contrast against that white background. I'll adhere it in the lower right hand corner using liquid adhesive. Then I'll add the 3 yellow butterflies, 1 next to the sentiment and 2 in the upper left hand corner. I decided to keep this card nice and flat and didn't add any bling. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love the bold red flowers against the white and craft background. Now moving on to card design number 3. Since this video is about the new black Platinum 6 machine, I figured I should show a little bit of die cutting. When I shared the unboxing video, I did have a brand new magic mat, and since sharing that video, this is how much die cutting I've been doing. The magic mats work in replacement of the acrylic mats that come with the die cutting machine. I personally like to use 1 acrylic plate and 1 magic mat. And the mat I cut into is the magic mat. There are some brands of dies that don't always work with a magic mat, and adding a shim can be helpful. But as you can see, I just cut out this cover plate die and it cut out beautifully. The Platinum 6 die cut bundle from Scrapbook.com includes Spellbinders' universal plate system and also the tool-in-one. It has the piercing tool on one side so you can easily pop out your die cuts. And for all those extra little bits that are stuck in your die, you can use the brush to pop all of those out. The die I use for the background is by Scrapbook.com. It's their Mosaic A2 Coverplate die. I used 1 of the reddish pink colors from the Roses Smooth Cardstock collection. And for the background, I selected a lighter pink from that same Roses collection. I'll put adhesive on the back and adhere those 2 pieces together. There's a little bit of that light pink cardstock showing, so I did go and trim that down. For intricate dies like this, you can also use a double-sided adhesive sheet, but for this card, I decided to use liquid adhesive. Later in the video, I will show how to use the double-sided adhesive sheets. For images on the card, I'm using some more of the Delicate Leaves die cuts. Selected 3 different varieties. The larger fern leaf I cut out from some white cardstock. The other 2 I use vellum and also some white glitter cardstock. I'll adhere all of those in place using liquid adhesive. For the vellum, I'm being very careful to only add liquid adhesive in the areas that's not very visible. So I'll put some toward the bottom of that stem and just a small drop where it's touching the white fern die cut piece. For a sentiment, I'm adding the word hello, and this is from Scrapbook.com's Thank You 2 Words die set. It has the word and also the outline, and I will be using both this time. I cut out the word from some black cardstock and used the same reddish pink cardstock for that outline piece. I'll adhere those 2 together using liquid adhesive. Then I'll pop up the sentiment using some double-sided foam adhesive shapes. These are the mini squares. Remove the release paper on the back side and adhere the sentiment toward the bottom of all the leafy branches. Then to finish off the card, I'll add some pops of color from scrapbook.com. This is the Glitter Unicorn Tears color. It's a very sparkly light pink color. I'll put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 in the lower right-hand corner by the sentiment. I am tapping my card lightly to flatten out those drops. And that's just a personal preference. You can definitely leave them as is. So there is my finished card, and again, I did make 2 using this design. It's another fairly simple card design featuring lots of different die cuts. Now moving on to card design number 4. For this card, I'll be using scrapbook.com's Thanks A2 card die. The pattern paper is from their Playful collection. And I'm sure someone will mention that I'm die cutting upside down. It's just the way I've always done it. I like to cut up into the plate instead of down into the plate. And to make sure the die doesn't move while I'm cutting, I use some of scrapbook.com's mint tape. Holds everything nicely and it doesn't tear the paper. I selected the dark blue color from the Playful Smooth Cardstock collection to cut out this background piece. I love how it has the frame with the thanks word in the center. And this is a fun die since you could snip out that word and use it separately, or you can keep it together. I thought it would be fun to make a shaker card using that A2 panel. On the back side, I'll add some clear double-sided adhesive tape. I think I'm using the 1/4 of an inch size. And behind the sentiment, I am adding a little bit of liquid adhesive. Now, instead of using acetate, I decided to use some of scrapbook.com's vellum. I'll press everything down, make sure it's all adhered together. Then on the back side, I'll add some of scrapbook.com's foam tape. This is their 1/4 of an inch size. It's a good thickness for shaker cards. After adding it to the outside frame, I'll cut some tiny little pieces to put behind just some of the areas of the sentiment. Since this will be a full panel shaker card, I don't want the center of the card caving in. But I do need to cut some teeny tiny pieces. I'll flip it over, and if I can see any of the white foam showing, I am cutting those pieces a little bit smaller. For a shaker mix, I'm using Spellbinders Silver Smooth Discs to try to fill that up as much as possible. In any areas where there's a lot of the sequins stacked on top of each other, I'm trying to separate those. Then I'll remove the release paper and add some of the Playful pattern paper on the back side. Using the vellum instead of acetate gives that background a very muted look. You also can't see how shiny those silver sequins are, but I still really like the look. On one side of the card, there's a little bit of the pattern paper peeking out from the background, so I did trim that off. Next, I'll add a couple of beautiful butterfly die cuts. These are from scrapbook.com's Butterfly Shape Dies set number 1. There's also an outline piece, but I decided just to use the main butterfly image. I cut out one from some white cardstock and the other from a blue color that matches the very background pattern paper. I'll adhere both of those in place using liquid adhesive. Then to finish off their card, I'll add some of the silver sequins. So this time you'll be able to see that beautiful shine. I'll put 3 of them in the lower left-hand corner around the white butterfly and 2 on the right side of the card underneath the blue butterfly. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I don't make shaker cards very often anymore, but I really like how this one turned out. For my final card design, I decided to do some hot foiling. So one really nice thing about the Platinum 6 die cutting machine is you can use Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil system with it. I have my machine plugged in and it's still heating up. The Glimmer foil I'm using is the Variety Pack, has a bunch of different metallics. And the hot foil plate I'm using is by Spellbinders. It's the Woodgrain background. So once the machine is all ready, I'll add the plate. Hit the little timer button, so I'll let that sit for another few minutes. When the light is no longer flashing, it's time to do some hot foiling. I'll be hot foiling on some craft cardstock. I placed the foil shiny side down, then added the craft cardstock. Then I'll use the 2 plates that go with the Glimmer machine, simply run it through my Platinum 6 machine, and this is the result. Super easy and beautiful. I'll set that aside and start working on the images. I'm using the Layered Roses die set, and this time I'll use the double-sided adhesive sheets. I'll place those outline dies on top of that adhesive sheet, cut around them so I have enough to cover both of those die cut images. I'll remove the backing on one side of the sheet, adhere it right on top of the cardstock I want to cut out those roses from. Then I'll take both of those rose dies, place them on the cardstock, hold them in place with some of Scrapbook.com's mint tape, then run it through my die cut machine. Now I'll use the piercing side of the tool-in-one and pop out all of those little pieces of the flower. By having the clear adhesive sheet on the back side, the rose outline die cut has now become a sticker, so it's super easy to adhere in place. First, I need to remove all those little inside bits. I selected a lighter pink color for the background piece of the rose, and I'll place the outline rose right on top. I'll do the same thing with one of the smaller roses, and off screen I assembled another rose. So my card will feature 3 beautiful roses. And I used the Roses Smooth Cardstock Pack for both of the flowers. I love how it has just slightly different shades of pinks and reds. Once all of my roses are assembled, I'll add a pretty watercolor splatter to the background using some gold paint. I'm using the color all the way on the left, which is more of a silver instead of a gold. I'll set the roses aside to dry. Then I'll add some of the leafy branches in the lower right-hand corner of the card. I chose 2 different styles of the leaves and cut them out from 2 different shades of green cardstock. Behind some of the leaves, I will pop them up using some foam dimension, but for the rest of the leaves, I'll glue them down using liquid adhesive. I'm mostly using the larger leaves, putting 2 of those branches toward the top and 1 peeking out on the left side. But for the smaller leaves, I use a lighter green cardstock color, and they'll be just peeking out from around the roses. On one of the smaller leaf branches, I did cut it in half. I'll have just 2 of those leaves on the left side, and the others will be underneath on the bottom. I wanted to make sure to have some of the leaves toward the bottom of the card. Now it's time to add the 3 roses. For the rose in the very lower right-hand corner, I'll glue it down directly using liquid adhesive, but for the other 2 roses, I will be popping them up using some of Scrapbook.com's foam dimension. The second smaller rose will sit on top of the larger rose, so I did make sure not to put foam dimension on the area where it touches that larger rose. For a sentiment, I'm adding the word hello, and this is the same hello die cut that I used on a previous card. I cut it out of some white cardstock, and I'll adhere it above the roses on the left side. To finish off the card, I'm adding some beautiful pearl stickers from Honeybee Stamps. This is from their autumn collection. Put 3 of them in the upper right-hand corner, 3 around the sentiment, and 1 toward the bottom of the card by that last rose. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love how this card turned out. The layered rose dies are beautiful, and I love the hot foil background. It's so easy to do. Now here's another look at 10 cards I made using some of Scrapbook.com's dies, pattern paper, and other products. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. Spellbinders Black Platinum 6 die cutting machine is only available at Scrapbook.com, and it has a great bundle that includes the tool-in-one and also the universal plate system. And Scrapbook.com does have other bundles available. Some of them include their magic mat, others include different dies. So if you are interested in purchasing the machine, be sure to check out all the other bundle options, since there may be one that'll work better for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.